The rain had finally stopped, leaving behind a damp air and the faint scent of the African savanna, saturated with the smell of wet earth and acacia trees. Alex Harper, a 58-year-old man, was still tinkering with the sagging fence on his remote farm in the Kenyan savanna when the familiar patter of paws made him look up. Rex, his 8-year-old Rottweiler, had been missing for several hours, a rarity for the loyal dog since they moved to this secluded place far from civilization. Alex's heart sank at the sight. Rex had not returned alone. Behind the dirty, slushy dog, shambling 3 tiny creatures, also covered in mud and barely able to stand on their paws. The 3 cubs, no older than 6 to 8 weeks, looked exhausted and scared. "Oh my God," Alex exclaimed, dropping the hammer. After 35 years of working in wildlife rescue centers, he immediately recognized them as purebred African lions, a rarity in this area where poachers and smugglers were a real scourge. Rex stopped a dozen paces from his owner, looking at him with eyes full of fatigue and pride. The cubs immediately fell to the ground, breathing heavily, their soft fur covered in dirt. As Alex approached, something unexpected happened. Rex let out a soft growl, a sound he had never made towards his owner. The dog moved to the side, placing himself between Alex and the cubs. The message was clear. They were under his protection. Alex stepped back, examining the muddy paw prints. He realized that Rex had probably followed the trail along the swollen creek. Years of experience told him that these cubs were out of place here. They must have come from far away under strange circumstances. Alex scanned the area, looking for signs of the mother lion or other lions. But there was only the wind rustling through the acacia bushes and the rush of water in the nearby stream. These cubs had clearly been abandoned or lost, and Rex had somehow found them. He opened the door of the barn-turned-workshop and beckoned to Rex. Amazingly, the cubs seemed to understand. They struggled to their feet and followed the dog inside. Alex pulled out his phone and called Emma Lawrence, a former colleague at the wildlife agency. "Alex, you're not going to believe this," Emma said after hearing the story. "We just got a report of a truck carrying illegal animals that overturned while trying to cross a swollen creek 5 miles from your farm. The police found some of the animals, but many are still missing." The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place in Alex's mind. Poachers and smugglers, a plague he had spent his career fighting, were probably trying to smuggle these cubs illegally. The rain and rising waters had created a rare opportunity for the cubs to escape. When Emma suggested that they take the cubs immediately, Alex glanced at Rex. The dog had laid down next to them, licking the dirt from their fur with astonishing devotion. "Emma, we have a problem," Alex said. "Rex has adopted them as his own." Alex explained that Rex had formed a protective bond with the cubs, and an immediate separation would be stressful for everyone. With his vast experience, he convinced Emma to let him care for them temporarily for a few days until they were strong enough to be transported. Emma reluctantly agreed, but warned, 3 days, Alex, no more, and daily reports." After hanging up, Alex began rummaging through old cupboards for supplies. He pulled out bottles of carnivore formula, a basic veterinary kit, and thick blankets. With the care of a surgeon, he prepared a warm, safe place in the corner of the barn, spreading out the softest blankets. When Alex returned, Rex had already settled the cubs in the corner, where they were safe and warm. The dog was gently licking the dirt from their fur, his movements patient as a mother. Arthur, Bruno, and Clara, the names Alex would soon give them, fell asleep from exhaustion, their tiny bodies curled up against Rex for warmth and safety. Alex watched Rex tend to the cubs. He wondered if 3 days would be enough. Looking into Rex's unyielding eyes, Alex knew the dog had made his decision, and nothing could change it. The first night was spent in constant vigil. Alex slept in an old chair in the barn, waking at the slightest sound, ready to intervene if necessary. But Rex was in complete control, tending to the cubs' every need with an astonishing natural instinct. When Arthur woke up and whined with hunger, Rex immediately woke Alex, leading him to the bottle he had prepared. The savannah dawn was breaking through the cracks in the door, heralding a new day. Alex woke to find Rex leading Arthur, Bruno, and Clara outside, teaching them to relieve themselves in appropriate places, a behavior Alex had never thought a dog could teach cubs. "Okay, old man," Alex said to Rex as the dog brought the cubs back. "We've got 3 days. Let's make them count." Alex turned the barn into a temporary home for the 3 cubs, using his experience to check on their health and care. They were dehydrated, hungry, and scared, but fortunately without serious injuries. Rex refused to leave the cubs' side, even skipping meals to stay with them. Alex watched silently as Rex licked the dirt from their fur, coaxed them to eat the food Alex had prepared, and taught them how to play safely on the wet ground. In the barn, Alex named the 3 cubs. The largest, with a sharp gaze and dark fur, he named Arthur. The middle one, calm and observant, was Bruno. The smallest and most playful female was Clara. All 3 began responding to their names within just a few days, surprising Alex with their intelligence. The following days brought a sight Alex had not seen in his long career. Rex didn't just care for Arthur, Bruno, and Clara, he trained them. The dog patiently showed them how to sneak through puddles, move through mud without falling through, and even how to clean themselves after playing. The cubs began to imitate many of Rex's behaviors, from the way he lay down to the sounds he made. On the second morning, with the sun still low over the savannah horizon, Alex awoke to find Rex teaching Arthur how to sneak. The dog hid behind a small bush in the yard, with only his eyes and ears visible. Arthur, trying to imitate, crouched down too, although his technique was clumsy. Bruno watched intently, and Clara, unable to sit still, ran around, wagging her tail and ruining any attempt at stealth. Alex began recording his observations in an old notebook, realizing that this was a unique opportunity to study interspecies behavior rarely documented in science. He took pictures and videos of Rex teaching Arthur to lie down and wait, then suddenly pounce on an old pillow. Clara, always the more energetic, often interrupted the lesson by jumping in the middle, forcing Rex to patiently start over. At noon on the third day, exactly on the deadline Emma had set, she arrived to check on the cubs. As Alex led her into the barn, surprise showed on her face. Arthur, Bruno, and Clara were no longer the frightened, weak creatures they were. They were lively and curious. They ran around Emma's legs, examining the new visitor with the natural curiosity of lions, but always kept a safe distance. A lesson Rex had taught them. "I've never seen anything like it," Emma admitted, watching Rex teach Arthur and Bruno how to cross a puddle without splashing. "He doesn't just take care of them, he trains them to be lions." Alex smiled, but he knew that time was up. "I suppose you'll take them now?" Emma looked at the scene before her again. Rex was patiently showing Clara how to properly wash her face, while Arthur was intently watching a beetle, practicing his newly learned stealing skills. Something special was happening here. Something she, with all her experience working with wildlife, had never seen. "I think we can extend the time a little," Emma said after a pause. "They're developing well, and there are experts who will be very interested in what's happening here." "But Alex, you realize that this isn't a long-term solution, right?" Alex nodded. He understood better than anyone that Arthur, Bruno, and Clara were lions, not pets. One day they will be powerful and dangerous predators, unable to live in a barn forever. Emma agreed to extend the period for a week, on the condition that a vet check the cubs' health. Alex happily agreed, knowing that with each passing day, the bond between Rex and the cubs was growing deeper. The vet, an older man named David, whom Alex knew from his days at the rescue center, arrived the next day. He couldn't hide his amazement at the sight of Rex and the three cubs. "In 40 years of practice, I've never seen anything like this," he said, watching Rex teach Arthur and Bruno how to drink water from a bowl without spilling. "It's not just a protective instinct. Your dog is teaching them, Alex. He's passing on knowledge." Dr. David confirmed that Arthur, Bruno, and Clara were healthy and thriving. In fact, he noted that they were doing even better than cubs of the same age that he had seen at zoos and sanctuaries. "Perhaps there's something we can learn from Rex's training methods," he said before leaving Alex with more questions. A week turned into 2, then 3. Arthur, Bruno, and Clara were growing fast, their tiny bodies slowly taking shape into the mighty predators they would become. Alex had converted part of the yard into a safe play area, with logs to climb and a small pool for learning to swim. One day, when the cubs were about 6 weeks old, Alex witnessed an amazing moment. Rex had placed a stuffed rabbit in the center of the yard, attached to a rope that Alex could pull. The dog lay down, signaling Arthur, Bruno, and Clara to do the same. Rex would then slowly creep toward the prey, pausing when the rabbit moved. Alex would tug gently on the rope. Arthur got the lesson right away, copying Rex's every move with astonishing precision. Bruno followed, albeit more slowly, and Clara, as usual, was too excited to be patient, constantly jumping out of hiding, causing the prey to escape. Alex yanked hard on the rope. Rex showed no disappointment. He patiently guided Clara back to her original position, sometimes gently grabbing the unruly cub by the scruff of the neck, as a lioness might. After many attempts, Clara finally learned her lesson in patience, and the three successfully hunted the toy rabbit together. Alex documented everything, creating detailed notes that he hoped would one day aid in conservation and rehabilitation efforts for wild animals. He realized that Rex's actions could provide new knowledge on how to raise orphaned animals for reintroduction into the wild. Every day brought new lessons from Rex. The dog seemed to understand that Arthur, Bruno, and Clara were not puppies, but a completely different species with their own needs and instincts. He adapted his training methods to their lion nature, encouraging their natural predatory behavior through carefully designed games. Arthur, with his focused and cautious nature, quickly became an excellent student of Rex. The cub learned to move silently, sneak unnoticed, and even use the environment for camouflage. Bruno, more calm, learned lessons in observation and strategy. Clara, although active and impatient, learned important skills in teamwork and coordination in hunting. Most amazing of all, Rex taught them boundaries and rules. He established a gentle but effective system of discipline, using a gentle growl to warn when they were getting too playful or too rough. As the cubs began to show more strength, Rex taught them control, an invaluable lesson for creatures that would one day become apex predators. Emma continued to visit, first weekly, then bi-weekly. She brought appropriate food and documented the cubs' development. Each visit amazed her with the progress and the deepening bond she felt with Rex. "The researchers won't believe me if I don't document everything," she told Alex after watching Rex teach Arthur, Bruno, and Clara to swim in a small pool Alex had dug in the yard. "It changes everything we know about animal behavior." When the cubs reached about 10 weeks of age, an interesting phenomenon began. They began to teach Rex in return. Arthur, in particular, would lead Rex to places he wanted to explore, or show him instinctive hunting techniques that he seemed to know naturally. Clara, with her more outgoing nature, would invite Rex into games she had created, often involving jumping and chasing. Bruno, more reserved, would share with Rex moments of quiet observation of the savannah. Alex realized that this was not just a one-sided relationship, but a real exchange, an unusual family with complex dynamics and mutual respect. Rex was not just a foster father. He became part of a small pride of lions, and Arthur, Bruno, and Clara accepted him as a member of the family. One evening, when the cubs were almost 3 months old, Alex received a call from Emma. She sounded more serious than usual. "I spoke to Dr. Mwangi at Tsavo Game Reserve," she said. "They've prepared a special area for Arthur, Bruno, and Clara. They're big enough to go where they belong, Alex." Alex looked out the window, where Rex was teaching the cubs to sneak through the savanna bushes. The dog had become a patient and wise father, and the cubs thrived under his guidance. But Alex knew Emma was right. Arthur, Bruno, and Clara were lions, not pets. They needed to be among their own. "Tomorrow," Emma said, her voice soft but firm. "We'll be there in the morning." Hanging up, Alex walked out into the yard, where Rex was still training Arthur, Bruno, and Clara. In the sunset of the savannah, he looked at these 3 creatures, the dog who had found a new purpose, and the 3 lion cubs who had found an unexpected father, and wondered if Rex understood why his adopted children had to leave. Alex couldn't sleep that night. He heard Arthur, Bruno, and Clara playing in the barn, heard Rex's soft growl when they got too noisy. He wondered if this was their last night together, and if Rex knew it. Alex knew that despite the special bond between Rex and the cubs, they were growing quickly and would soon be too big and dangerous to live in the house. But the affection between Rex and the cubs was too deep to ignore. After a restless night, Alex came up with a solution. In the morning, he called Emma and proposed a bold plan, a gradual transition process involving Rex. Alex used his industry connections and extensive experience to convince Emma that this wasn't just a crazy idea, but a potential new method that would be beneficial to both the cubs and conservation research. "I want us to convince the reserve to try a special program," Alex explained. "Rex and I will be involved in the reintegration process of Arthur, Bruno, and Clara. We will bring them to the reserve for short visits to get them used to their new environment and other lions, while maintaining a bond with Rex." Emma was skeptical at first, but after reviewing the notes and videos Alex had been collecting for the past 3 weeks, she began to see the potential. She promised to discuss it with the reserve's management. A week later, good news arrived. Tsavo Reserve had agreed to test the program Alex had proposed. With Alex's expertise in wildlife and compelling data on the bond between Rex and the cubs, the reserve saw a unique opportunity to study lion behavior. The transition process began immediately. Alex and Rex brought Arthur, Bruno, and Clara to the sanctuary for short visits, just a few hours at first. At first, the cubs were anxious in their new environment, staying close to Rex. But gradually, with his encouragement, they began to explore the larger sanctuary and even interact with the other lions housed there. Rex adapted to his new role in an amazing way. Instead of keeping the cubs close, he seemed to understand that his mission was to help them integrate into their new world. He encouraged them to participate in activities with the other lions, stepping back and observing from afar, intervening only when necessary. The sanctuary's researchers began documenting everything, impressed by Rex's emotional intelligence and the cubs' adaptability. They noticed that despite being raised by Rex, Arthur, Bruno, and Clara retained their lion instincts. They may even have learned some skills from Rex that they couldn't have learned from other lions. After 4 months of hard work, Arthur, Bruno, and Clara had fully adapted to life at the sanctuary. They had grown considerably. No longer the tiny cubs that Rex had brought home in the mud. They had integrated with the other lions at the sanctuary. Although the researchers noted that they displayed some unique behavioral traits, perhaps a legacy of their time with Rex. The sanctuary, impressed by Alex's involvement and his deep understanding of animal behavior, invited him to become a special consultant for a new program exploring the use of dogs in raising orphaned wild animals. The story of Rex and the 3 cubs became a case study that provided new insights into the ability to form interspecies bonds and their impact on the development of wild animals. On their last visit, on a rainy afternoon, Alex and Rex stood at the fence of the lion enclosure, watching Arthur, Bruno, and Clara play in the mud with the other lions. They had grown into healthy, strong, confident young lions, nothing like the small, scared creatures Rex had brought home. When Rex gave a soft bark, all 3 cubs stopped, their heads raised. They looked at Rex and Alex, their eyes shining with recognition. A moment later, they ran up to the fence, not in an attack pose, but with obvious joy, like the 3 cubs who had followed Rex that first day. Alex felt a tear roll down his cheek, not from sadness, but from the realization that sometimes the deepest bonds are formed in the most unexpected circumstances. And true love isn't about holding on, it's about letting go, allowing those you love to become the best version of themselves. Rex, standing proudly next to Alex, seemed to understand this too. The dog looked at Arthur, Bruno, and Clara one last time, then turned, ready to go home. His job was done. He had saved 3 lives, raised them, and now he knew when to let go. As Alex rode home, he placed his hand on Rex's head. "You're doing great, old man," he whispered. The dog rested his head on Alex's hand, his gaze darting toward the horizon, where the sun was setting behind the distant Savannah Mountains, ushering in a new day, a new beginning for everyone. Thank you, friends, for taking the time to read this story. If it touched your heart, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to support us. See you in the next wildlife stories.